True happiness is one of the most sought-after treasures in life, yet it often hides in the simplest places, so close that we tend to overlook it. Where true happiness comes from is a gentle but powerful reminder that happiness is not something to be chased like a distant dream, but something to be cultivated in the quiet spaces of our hearts. The book invites the reader to take an inward journey, away from the noise and glitter of external achievements, and towards the subtle richness of inner peace, gratitude, and authentic living. It begins by challenging the illusion most of us are taught from a young age, that happiness is a prize awarded after we acquire enough wealth, status, or recognition. The author compares this belief to running endlessly on a treadmill, always moving, always striving, but never arriving. Many people spend their entire lives postponing happiness until someday arrives, but the truth, as the book gently teaches, is that someday rarely comes unless we choose to make today enough. The narrative draws on both personal stories and parables to show how individuals who seemed to have everything still felt empty, and how others who had almost nothing radiated joy, peace, and warmth. One of the central lessons is that happiness is not an outcome, it is a way of traveling. The author shares the story of an old fisherman who lives on a small coastal village. His home is modest, his days simple, yet he wakes each morning with gratitude and sleeps each night with peace. When asked why he is so content, he answers, "Because I have decided to see what I have, not what I lack." The power of this perspective runs throughout the book. It reminds us that our minds are often conditioned to measure our lives by comparison, who has more, who is doing better, without realizing that comparison is the thief of joy. The book then turns inward, guiding the reader to see that true happiness begins with self-acceptance. Many people are unknowingly at war with themselves, carrying regret for the past and anxiety for the future. This internal struggle robs them of the beauty in the present moment. Through meditative reflections, the author encourages the reader to embrace their imperfections, to forgive themselves for mistakes, and to see life as a process of becoming rather than a quest for perfection. It is in this acceptance, of ourselves and of life's unpredictability, that a deep, steady joy begins to grow. Another vital insight is that happiness is tied to meaning, not material possessions. The book gives the example of a young corporate executive who seemed to be living the dream: high salary, luxury apartment, expensive vacations, but who confessed to feeling empty. His turning point came when he started volunteering at a shelter for homeless children. The time he spent there, sharing meals and teaching them basic skills, brought him more joy than any pay raise or promotion ever had. The message is clear: when we contribute to something beyond ourselves, we tap into a current of happiness that is lasting and profound. The author also explores the role of gratitude in cultivating happiness. Gratitude, they explain, is not merely a polite "thank you" for the obvious blessings, it is a conscious choice to see beauty in what is ordinary and to honor life in its smallest moments. They share a story of a woman who began keeping a gratitude journal during a season of deep personal loss. At first, she struggled to find anything worth noting, but slowly, she began to see sunlight through her window, the laughter of a neighbor's child, the aroma of her morning tea, as small gifts. Over time, her grief softened, and she found herself smiling again. This transformation highlights one of the book's deepest truths: what we choose to focus on expands in our lives. If we look for what is wrong, we will find endless reasons to be unhappy. If we look for what is right, we will uncover a wellspring of quiet joy. A recurring theme is the importance of presence. Much of our unhappiness, the author explains, comes from living in our heads instead of our lives, replaying old wounds or rehearsing future fears. But when we return our attention to the present moment, fully noticing the breath, the sound of leaves in the wind, the feel of warm water on our skin, we discover a peace that was always there, waiting for us to notice. The book likens presence to the clearing of a fog. The landscape of our life was beautiful all along, we just couldn't see it through the haze of distraction. Relationships also play a central role in the book's vision of happiness. True joy, the author reminds us, is often found in the connections we nurture, with friends, family, community, and even strangers. They share the story of an elderly man who lived alone for years, feeling invisible to the world. His life began to change when he started a small habit. Each day, he would smile and greet at least one stranger. Over time, those brief moments of kindness led to conversations, friendships, and a renewed sense of belonging. The lesson is profound. Happiness grows when we share it. In giving warmth, we receive it back in ways we never expect. The book also addresses the danger of tying our happiness to conditions outside our control. Jobs, relationships, health, and circumstances will inevitably change, and if our sense of joy is tethered to them, we will be constantly tossed between elation and despair. The author uses the metaphor of building a home on shifting sands. It may stand for a while, but it is never secure. True happiness, they argue, comes from building on the rock of inner stability, cultivating resilience, compassion, and values that remain steady regardless of life's storms. One of the most touching sections describes the transformation of a character named Layla, a young woman who spent years chasing approval, studying what her parents wanted, working in a job she disliked, living in a way that matched others' expectations but silenced her own heart. Her turning point came when she realized she had never once stopped to ask herself what she truly wanted. Through a process of deep reflection, she began to choose differently, not recklessly, but with authenticity. She started painting again, something she had abandoned in childhood. She spent weekends in nature instead of at networking events. Slowly, the joy she had been chasing her entire life began to emerge, not from others' praise, but from the quiet satisfaction of living in alignment with her true self. The closing chapters weave all these threads together into a simple but profound truth: happiness is not a destination we reach once we have checked off certain boxes. It is a daily practice, an attitude, and a way of relating to ourselves and the world. It is found in small moments: sharing a meal with someone you love, feeling the sun on your face, doing work that matters to you, sitting in silence without needing to fill it. It is nurtured by gratitude, presence, kindness, and meaning. And it requires courage, the courage to stop running towards the next thing and instead stand still long enough to appreciate where you are. In the end, where true happiness comes from leaves the reader with a sense of quiet empowerment. You realize that you do not have to wait for life to be perfect to be happy. You do not need more things, more achievements, or more approval. You already carry within you the seeds of joy. It is simply a matter of watering them with awareness, acceptance, and love. True happiness, the book teaches, is less about having a life that looks good on the outside and more about creating a life that feels good on the inside. It is a reminder worth carrying into every day. Happiness is not something we find, it is something we remember. It is the natural state of a heart that has learned to be at peace with itself, to see beauty in the ordinary, and to give freely without fear of running out. And once you understand this, you will no longer need to chase happiness, because you will realize that, quietly and faithfully, it has been walking beside you all along.